Hey guys, hi, Carl Gruber, the host of this podcast, World Awakening is the fast track to enlightenment. And I have a question for you. What if you were just cruising along blissfully in life, engrossed in your daily job and things around you, but not even looking at anything outside of you as if there's something other beyond your personal life? And all of a sudden, a big event happens in your life, a catastrophe that causes a catharsis, and all of a sudden you say, hey, maybe there is something beyond this. I better check this out. And that is what happened to our guest that's going to be on the show, a master numerologist and certified metaphysician. I think you're going to like this one, so stick around.
This is World Awakenings, the fast track to enlightenment with your host, Carl Gruber. World Awakenings is a podcast dedicated to opening your mind, your heart, and your eyes to the fact that the world's population is now, more than ever, awakening to all things spiritual, metaphysical, and enlightening, and just how they play an all-important role in our daily life. So join Carl on this enlightening experience as he interviews metaphysical and spiritual experts to discuss, debate, and delve deeply into the hows and whys of this worldwide awakening.
This is the podcast World Awakenings, the fast track to enlightenment. I am your host, Carl Gruber. In this episode number 111, we meet and talk with Reverend Dr. Craig Wright, who holds degrees in psychology and metaphysics and has over 40 years experience teaching and consulting. He is a master numerologist and certified metaphysician. Now, before we meet him, please take a moment to click the link below to grab your free copy of my ebook, The 3 Pillars, a simple 3-step process to manifest positive and permanent change in your life, a book that will help you to build a rock-solid personal foundation for your life. And please also click the subscribe button so you never miss a single exciting episode of this show. So with that, I'd like to welcome you, Craig. Welcome to World Awakenings.
Thank you, Carl. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, and, as you and I were just chatting a little bit before we started the show here, I've had so many beautiful, wonderful experts on, and you have so much to offer. But I'm going to dive into this here. I see that you are not only a certified numerologist and a metaphysician, but also an ordained minister of metaphysics. How is this different than a minister of organized religion?
Well, the main difference I would say is organized religion usually puts the focus of empowerment on the minister, the cardinals, the hierarchy. They have a bureaucratic system in which people climb the same way they do in the corporate world. But as metaphysicians, we believe that the power is within us. And our job is to help people, as I heard you mention your books, to help people discover that inner guidance, to be self-empowered. And I believe that ultimately is what is going to bring us all into unison when we stop reaching outside of ourselves and turn within, because I believe we're all made of the same stuff inside.
Yeah, I am in absolute total agreement with what you said. That's a beautiful answer. Thank you for that, Craig. But I'd like to find out a little bit more about you and how you got into this. I understand from what I read on your website that your loss of a good friend back in the early 70s in your life drew you to studying numerology and metaphysics. Can you discuss that incident and how all this came about?
Sure, I'll be glad to, Carl. Well, the incident that you're referring to was my best friend dying from a drug overdose when I was 21. But before that, I got good grades in math and science in the 7th grade, and my parents decided they were going to have an engineer in the family. When you're that age, people make decisions for you. They had great intentions, and one of the best they could possibly do for me. So I was always studying math and science. In fact, I hadn't awakened to metaphysics or the spiritual world. If you couldn't measure it, quantify it, multiply it, it wasn't real for me. I was a true technocrat. My aim was to become an engineer and join the Navy and fly aircraft, jet aircraft. But as I mentioned before, when I lost my best friend, that changed everything. This wasn't supposed to happen to me. This happens to other people or on TV. You know, what happened? Where is he gone? So for the first time in my life, especially Carl, because I wasn't aware he was using.
Oh,
And
wow.
I thought of him as my best friend, and I was totally unaware that he was even using. So that began introspection for me, to asking why. Why am I here? What's the meaning of life? And I heard a song on the radio by Roy Ayers, and it was called In Search of the Third Eye. It's on his album called Everyone Loves the Sunshine. So that's the LP it's on, but the cut is called In Search of the Third Eye. So in that state of wanting to know why I was here and what was the meaning of life, that music was medicine for me. So I bought the album, read the jacket cover, and discovered the author had wrote a book called In Search of the Third Eye. Now, the lyrics of this song, Carl, what mesmerized me was the lyrics were secrets of wisdom, secrets of sound, secrets of numbers can be found. So as basically a math fanatic and an engineer, a scientist, I wanted to know secrets of numbers. I wanted to know why I was here. So I was drawn to it. So when I finally got my hands on the book, it was by Vera Stanley Aldrich. She talked about the secrets of colors, how restaurants will use an orange color. It stimulates appetite.
Oh.
They discovered females weren't passive. They were being dressed in pink all the time. It's the color pink that brings out this passivity. So they also discovered that a orangish tint of yellow is the most attracting color. And that's why they paint all the buses and yield signs, everything that's important to us is painted that way in that color. But what really got me were the numbers. I started to read that numbers were different from figures. For example, if I hold up a pen and I say I have one pen, that would be a figure. But if I look closer and I said, big pens are number one, I'm no longer talking about a quantity, I'm talking about a quality.
Mm-hmm.
And once I discovered that numbers were symbols for qualities of energy and could affect your experience, they could affect where you live, that they were in fact affecting everything around us, it opened a whole new world to me. As I began to study the meaning of numbers, I discovered that the number 7 indicated someone who was here to research and analyze and study and discover things and reveal them to others. Guess who's a number 7?
You.
My name, my birthday, my vow total.
Wow.
Is concentrated energy. So as a result of my friend passing, now I tell people he really put me on my path.
Mm-hmm.
He put me on my path. So a lot of times the things that we think are bad or not good are actually, they actually are. I hate to use that old saying, but there's a silver lining to every cloud. Now it took maybe, I don't know, that happened in the 70s, and I became a professional numerologist in 1988. So it took about 15, 16 years for this manifestation, for this metamorphosis.
Mm-hmm.
But that as I look back, that's what started it all.
And I see this quite a bit, that could a form of catastrophe turns into some form of catharsis for people. And that's what happened to you. So I'm curious, when you had this change of path of your life, how did your family except that all of a sudden you were going to be a numerologist instead of an engineer and a metaphysician.
Well, it's sort of like what's death to the caterpillar is life to the butterfly, right? I couldn't stay in the cocoon. Everything changed.
Yeah.
Everything changed. The people that I used to associate with, a lot of them thought I just lost my mind. Uh, they wanted to distance themselves from this crazy guy now talking about numbers and meanings. See, this was before Amazon and Facebook. When you went to the library, there were no books in the library on numerology. Now, if you go there, there's a numerology for dummies. That's how mainstream the science has become. But when I was seeking it, after I read Vera Stanley Alder's book and I went to the bibliography, I had to go to the Library of Congress to find those books. That's
Yeah.
the only place I could find them. So I spent a lot of time, just engrossed in this information. It was food for my soul. It was feeding me. It was turning my whole life around from tragedy to a blessing. And as a result of that, I was being able to start to share with others. Um, I don't know if they just sensed it or what, but I would find myself in a checkout line, for example, and all of a sudden I would hear someone mention their birthday. That was my clue. That was the universe saying, this is what I've been preparing you for. So I would share some information and keep moving in the line. But the next time I would come back, they wanted to know, how did you know that? You've got to tell me what's going on here. So eventually I found myself on a radio program
Mm.
um, with a lady named Reverend Hazel Cassell. She had found out through the community that I was sharing information. She had been into metaphysics for years and understood my gift long before I did, and invited me on the show, had people call in and gave out my phone number. That was the first time that ever happened. So
Oh,
I
wow.
was kind of shocked.
Yeah.
People started asking me for services that I didn't even have. I had to come up with a numerology reading and doing forecasts, consultations, advising people on the home that they wanted to buy, naming their kids, all, just the flood came in. And that's how I became a numerologist. It was sort of, I don't know what you call that, generic. It just came from within. No one came to me and said, hey, read this book. This stuff is really cool, I
You,
just was guided to it.
you naturally blossom, but we're going to most definitely pursue this numerology study of yours. But I read that you believe our ultimate realization is to experience God's will being done in our lives on earth as it is in heaven. How does your spiritual practice mesh with the metaphysical side?
Well, another thing I've discovered, Carl, is it doesn't matter whether you call God Krishna, Allah, Buddha, Yahweh, God, Jehovah, more in terms of with today's timing, the force.
Yeah, right.
Doesn't matter what you call it, it exists. It's energy, vibrations, and numbers are symbols for vibrations. So it sort of led me to my study of numbers led me to these world religions because there were stories behind the number seven. As I read about the seven, I said, wait a minute, that sounds familiar. And I discovered numerology predated all the major world religions by 3,000 or 4,000 years.
Mm-hmm.
So all of them grew out of the study of numbers, and many of them were in the ancient mystery schools in Egypt, and the halls of the Luxor Temple. Pythagoras. There's a guy most people have heard of. The Pythagorean theorem in geometry was just part of what he brought back from the Egyptian mystery schools where he studied 20 years, but also the study of numerology. And he blew so many people away. They had something called Pythagorism during that time. It was a following, a religious practice. So most of the major religions grew out of this study. You can trace it, for example, in the scripture.
Mm.
We associate the number 7 with rest. Okay, being still. And as a 7, I can attest to that. I had to disassociate, as I mentioned before, my other connections and become almost myopic, become a specialist and be still. We find out about in the scripture the number 40, you know. I'm reading about the number 4 in numerology. It tells me 0 is a symbol for the creator and 4 stands for orderliness. So I'm studying numerology and everybody's heard the story about 40 days and 40 nights. So it just naturally, I'm like, well, wait a minute.
Mhm.
If 4 stands for order and 0 is a symbol for the creator, as I recall, every time I hear the number 40, for example, in the Bible, but it shows up in the Quran and the Bhagavad Gita, the numbers are there. But most people have heard about the 40 days and the 40 nights. Whenever we hit the number 40, God is establishing a new order. That's the number 40. 4 stands for order, 0 stands for the creator. So I began to see there was additional information, shall we say, concealed by those who don't know the number code and revealed by those who do whenever you read any of these holy texts. The Bible, the Bhagavad Gita, the Quran, the Circle Seven. If you're reading about Krishna, you're going to see Arjuna ran into numbers too.
Well, I love that you mentioned that numbers actually represent vibrations. And of course, everything being energy and energy vibrates. And being a certified law of attraction life coach that I am, I mean, that is one of my
Awesome.
basic understandings that everything is energy and like attracts like. And so yeah, that's a perfect alignment with what I study and anybody who studies law of attraction does. I'm also glad that you mentioned that how ancient the study of numbers is. I did a quick little research, and I saw that I about what you talked about, the mystic Pythagoras. He believed that numbers carried sacred codes and were divinely inspired and created. Even back in, what did I see here? 1591, Pietro Bongo wrote a treatise called Numerorum Mysteria, a treatise on numerology. And so, yeah, absolutely, it is definitely an ancient study, and I love that you're carrying it forward.
Yes, I think we've entered an age, the always talk about Aquarian age. Well, we're in it now. Officially, I'm not an astrologer, but I read how it's really official now because Pluto has entered Aquarius and is going to stay there for the next 21 years.
Mm.
So again, that's not my area of expertise, but this is a time of awakening,
Oh
a
yeah.
time of when ancient things are coming back to the fore. We're also beginning to realize um, we have to start to depend on ourselves more in terms of our health, in terms of our income. So all of these self-empowering tools are starting to be rediscovered. And I gotta tell you, Carl, like in ancient times, those in power are starting to shake in their boots. That's why they banned all this stuff in the first place, because they didn't want you growing and developing. They didn't want any more Moses or Pythagoras showing up on the planet. They wanted to hold on to power. Okay, they wanted to hold on to power. So I'm just glad to be like you, a light worker.
Yeah.
Someone who was here to who was. If you're like me, I didn't choose this path. The path chose me.
Well, so let's go a little bit deeper now about exactly what numerology is. My understanding is that every letter has a number associated with it, and you can add the total sum of any word to obtain its numerological meaning, and the meaning of the numbers listed apply to birth dates and words like you already referenced. So people can do this to improve their life in some way, shape, or form, and understanding who they are.
Exactly, to develop a positive and a life enhancing self concept. If you think of self concept, like in my case, I was programmed to be an engineer by people who loved me, you know. By the way, I think they were still successful because I'm building bridges now, not on the material plane, but from the spiritual world to the material world. So you got your engineer, mom and dad.
I
But
love it. Yeah. Wow, that is so. How does an individual use numerology in a practical matter on a daily basis, and how can society in general use numerology to improve life?
well, from the very beginning, I mentioned self-concept. From my research, from the very beginning, it was used most often to help people know thyself and to thine own self be true. Those words were engraved in the temples of the Egyptian mystery schools. So the idea is we are energy and vibration. And this has come through intuition, observation. We think of the number one as being a leader, the first, the fastest, the top, the best. This weekend, we're going to find out who's going to be number one in college basketball. So, people are driven and competitive. We hear people talk about type A personality. A is the first letter of the alphabet, so it has a value of one. So, one takes on the energy and the vibration of being a pioneer, being very assertive, being self-motivated and directed. And when you discover number one energy in your chart, you know you're here to be self-employed, to be a pioneer. You also know you're here to experience some psychological isolation because there's an old song out that says number one is the loneliest number you will ever do. Okay. There's not a lot of room when you get to the top. But that's the number one. Now, the number two comes from the peace sign. When we hold up two fingers, that's harmony, cooperation. Okay. As soon as there's another part, imagine you're walking down the street by yourself, you're making your own decisions. You decide, you see a partner, you get connected with this partner. Now you got to make compromises. Okay. You can't be making own decisions on your own, So that's the number two, harmony, peace, and cooperation. Okay. From there, we go to the number three, which is a symbol for expression, youth, and abundance. That's the number three, growth. Okay. Four, or what I like to say, if one is Adam and two is Eve, one and two make three. That's children. Okay. You can't have kids crawling around the floor. You got to put them in a playpen. That's the number four. It stands for orderliness. Once we have order, we can get some work done. That's the number four, work of orderliness. Oh, can't forget those kids. Got to give them some freedom. Get them out of that playpen and let them crawl around and move around. That's the number five. Wait a minute, they're going to get in trouble if we're not careful. We have to be responsible. Too much freedom leads to anarchy. So that's the number six, service, being responsible, building community. Marriage comes under that vibration. Once we are responsible, we can now take time to rest. Okay. That's the number seven. Then as we are resting and being still, we can heed the inner voice. And as we seek the kingdom, all else is added unto us. Okay. That's the number eight. Money, power, material accomplishment. Once we've satiated our own desires for money and material things, we realize the real pleasure is in blessing others. And that's the number nine, selfless giving. That's the total cycle. After the number nine, there are no new numbers, Carl. Everything is repeating after that. A 10 is just a new beginning, a 1 and a 0. 24, 2 and 4, we've been there, done that. So there are higher octaves, like in music. So you could have a 1, a 10, 1 plus 0 is 1. Someone born on the 19th, 1 plus 9 is 10, and 1 plus 0 is 1. That's called reducing. And you find your number ones by adding 9 to it. 9 is selfless. When you add 9 to a number, it won't change it. 1, 10, 19, 28, 37, 46, 55. Just keep adding 9, 64, 73. They all will add up to 10 and reduce right back to the number 1.
Hmm.
So,
So if a client comes to you wanting to work on maybe a specific problem or something they want to improve in your life, is one of the basic things is giving you their birth date and then adding up the numbers. Is that your starting point?
that's exactly the best place to start with the day of birth at all times. Um, the idea is the numbers in our birthday, Carl, are our toolbox.
Mm.
The letters in our name, that's our blueprint. And we've come here, there's work to be done. Um, as spiritual beings, I'll put it this way. Some people believe we are physical beings having occasional spiritual experiences. As a metaphysician, and here's another difference between metaphysical practitioners and ministers and mainstream. We believe we are spiritual beings having a temporary physical experience, and then we go back home. And there's going to be a quiz. How did you do? How'd you do down there? We're the prodigal sons and daughters. I gave you some gifts. What did you do with them? Did you multiply them? Did you squander them? So that's pretty much where I start with the birth date to reveal what your gifts, talents, skills, and abilities are. And a lot of times, once it's sort of like getting in tune. Once my clients hear that, they can answer their own questions. I never look to create a dependency with my clients. I try to empower them by more or less reminding them of the contract they made with the creator before they got here. We make a contract before we're formed in the womb.
And so once, from what I see or understand what you're saying, once you give them what the numbers of their birthday and their name add up to, that gives them a sense of what their purpose is when they came into this life. But after you've consulted with them, I mean, it's up to that individual to take a hold of that information and use it in a positive, productive, loving manner, right?
Exactly right. You're exactly right. A lot of times I find people approach me at critical points in their life, at a juncture where they really need to hear this. And many of them have had to overcome a lot of obstacles in their own mind and their beliefs. A lot of my minister clients had to overcome their belief that studying numbers was evil. Who believes in name changes until I told them or referred them to the story of Jesus that they are so adamant about. He was a numerologist. He picked a guy named Peter. He picked a guy named Simon, who was a 7, which was faith, and he renamed him Peter because he wanted him to be the leader of the church.
Wow.
So once I show them, get them to slow down long enough to look at that connection and to logically understand what was going on with this name changing deal. I've had a lot of ministers consult with me since then. People from all walks of faith. It's like music. Numbers and music are universal language. 1 and 1 is 2. I don't care wherever you go. They may call it uno, dos, or eins, zwei, different names, but 1 and 1 is 2 wherever you go.
Boy, that's a good point, that numbers and music are universal language. Yeah, that is really a great analogy.
And if you think of it, the letters, musicians use letters for notes and numbers for timing. So the letters in our name and the numbers in our birthday symbolize, if you will, the song we came here to play. And
Yeah,
Life Symphony.
that's great. Yeah, I'm working on a symphony right now myself with all that. Wow.
I've been trying to hold off on this. I don't know if you want to share this, but when is your birthday?
Oh my God, you have to find out how old I am? Oh no.
Well, you can just give me your day of birth.
Okay. And how the month and the day, is that okay? Or just the day?
Sure.
Yeah, May 26th.
Okay.
I don't want people to
Two
know I'm
plus
over
six.
21.
2 plus 6 is 8. And the number 8 literally means, as it is above, so it is below. It's made of two circles, one on top of the other. In numerology, a 0 is a symbol for the creator.
Mm-hmm.
So when you got two of them, it means your gift in your toolbox, you brought with you the ability to channel information and the power of the spiritual plane here to the material plane and bring about a transition. The number associated with transitioning is a number 13. Okay, people are afraid of the 13, but the 13 means change, release, and transition, transformation, metamorphosis. And the 26 is the 13 multiplied by 2. So
Yeah.
as a 26, you came here to use spiritual energy and knowledge and forces to just change people's lives. I don't know how any other way to say it than that. When people meet you, they'll never be the same again. But also,
I've
if you
had that
take
said before. So I'm never the same after I met you, Carl.
you take that 8 and turn it on the side in mathematics, that's a sign for infinity.
Yes. Yep. Absolutely.
Whereas at number 8, you have wide angle vision and are aware of a lot more things than the rest of us are. Okay. So 8s always gravitate, as they say, the cream rises to the top. All right. 8s are supervisors, head of department. They run their own show. Some 8s gravitate toward uh, institutions or government work so they can climb their way to the top where their gifts can be utilized to give direction and restore balance. Now, there's one other quality about the number 8. It means what goes around comes around. So it's a karmic number.
Mm.
So as an 8, you have to be prepared. And I'm sure, based on just listening to your conversation, I'm sure you are prepared for this. But for your listeners who may not be, those who were born on the 8th, the 17th, and the 26th, one day you'll be walking down the road, past a pond, and some water's going to splash on you. And you're going to turn around and say, who threw that rock? And the answer is, you did. It's karma.
Mm.
It's karma. So as a number 8, 17s, and 26s, born in August, there's several years that have that same energy. Started with 1970 and add 9 to it if you want to. You're going to have to learn forgiveness. When the 8 shows up, karma is going to play in your life. But forgiving, when you're forgiving, you'll be forgiving yourself.
Mm.
That's why all the masters teach, turn the other cheek, wear it like a loose garment. It's been expressed many different ways. But essentially, we meet ourselves in this experience, and it's a summation of everything that we've done, every energy that we put out there. And this awakening that I had about the energy and the forces really humbled me.
Mm-hmm.
It really humbled me to understand that, as you know, we are attracting events into our experience based on our attitudes, our beliefs, our energy, the vibration. We're powerful attracting forces. And once I realized, not only are we attractors, but you can determine what energy, the actual vibration that you are, and the experiences you'll be attracting into your life. That really humbled me to have been exposed to that, to have been awakened to that, so that I can share that with others. Your month is a 5, which means you're here to be a change agent. 5 stands for freedom. So 9 to 5, I can see early in your life, because it's showing up 5 governs ages, first 28 years. I can see a lot of well-meaning people trying to get you to work a 9 to 5 job, and you just had to say, it's not for me. Okay. People who wanted the best for you. But 9 to 5, if you're born on the 5th or born in the month of May, 14th, 23rd. No, travel, adventure, um, expression, the media, sports, anywhere where you can deal with and meet with the public. That's the number 5.
Maybe that's why I have a sticker on the back window of my car that says "Dare, Dream, Risk."
Yes.
I've
You've
had
opened your toolbox.
I've had that on there for years. Well, I have to say that coming into this with fairly minimal knowledge of numerology, I'm very impressed on how expanding this is and how much deeper spiritually and connected to universal energy it is. This is really a wonderful information. But I'm really curious about this. Have you in your own life ever had any momentous experiences as a result of your study of numerology, or any of your clients? Have they had any interesting experiences because of consulting with you?
Well, yes, Carl, I was my first client.
Yeah.
I was my first client. I just my my aha moment, or I discovered why I was here, the meaning and purpose of my life. I was able to stop wasting time pursuing engineering. My background with numbers came in handy, especially when I meet someone for the first time and I get their name and their birthday. I'm able to work with numbers and calculate them quickly. So it was all preparing me for something I didn't know. It was preparing me to build bridges for the spiritual world, not the material bridges that I thought I was going to build. So that was my awakening. For me, I went from engineering to metaphysics, psychology. I have a PhD in metaphysical counseling. So major transition for me. Also, for my children, once they hit an age where I could communicate this information to them effectively, it opened up a whole new world of communication for them as well. It gave them new tools to work with when making decisions about what house to buy, which job to take, and also in their relationships. And I give them a forecast every year. They get a forecast from dad every year about the energy that they can anticipate, because for all things, there's a season. I guess um, in terms of my clients, um, doing compatibility work, I was able to, a couple of my clients ended up consulting about compatibility. I was able to, after a couple of years, I facilitated their wedding. I'm an ordained minister, so I married them. So
Wow.
that was kind of life changing as well. But for the main people who have benefited from the information have been business people. When they come to me about where should I open my office,
Mm.
which day is the best day for my promotion. Um, I'm about to starting a real estate business. Where should my office be? Those are the folks that I've seen really benefit, financially, avoiding pitfalls.
Interesting. Wow. I also saw in my little bit of research that there are different modalities of numerology. Do you favor one?
Yes, there are many different modalities. I had an idea that question may come up, and I had some information about that. There's a Chaldean system, um, the Pythagorean system, um, the Kabbalah, which
Mm.
grew out of a Hebrew heritage. So there's many different systems, but um, what the system that, having studied all of them and researched them, the one that I have grasped has been the Pythagorean system, which he'll tell everyone I learned it in Egypt, studying with the great masters.
Mm.
The world gives the Greeks the credit, the Greeks give the Egyptians the credit. They know where they learn their stuff.
Very cool. That is maybe you used to be a student of Pythagoras in a previous life. I wouldn't doubt it.
Wow, it's interesting that you would bring that up, Carl. I had a past life regressionist told me
Ooh,
the very same thing.
really?
She was laughing at me saying when I went to the Library of Congress, I was reading my own books. Whoa, that was chilling. That put me on
Yeah.
a whole nother vibe. What?
Well,
What?
that is great.
But yeah, I
Uh,
had to awaken to that reincarnation idea. It was the only way it made sense for the only way life makes sense, you know? And I watch it right now with spring, watching things come back to life.
mm. Yeah, and of course we're talking to Dr. Craig Wright, numerologist, metaphysician. This is just awesome, informative, beautiful stuff. As we wind down here a little bit, I'm really curious about this because one of the numbers that seems to be widely accepted by both religious and spiritual practitioners is number 1111. Why is this?
Yeah, that number 11. Um, Jesus was a number 11. Muhammad was a number 11. The 11, well, some kids won't remember this, but back in my day, we had TVs and they had antennas on them. We called them rabbit ears.
Yeah,
Okay.
I
Long
remember.
before long before the picture was on the TV, it hit those rabbit ears and it was translated into a form we could understand. Now, I was the youngest brother, so I was the one who always had to hold the rabbit ears and move them around till you got a perfect picture. Then I couldn't watch the show. I had to hold the antenna because my brother would beat me up if I messed the picture up. But the 11 symbolizes that energy. It's called the master teacher and the master of revelation because it's a number that symbolizes a quality of sensitivity that allows wisdom to be spread forth. Words like wisdom is a number 11. The word light is a number 11. And when you combine them, 1111 is 22. That's called the master builder and the globalist vibration. So 1111 is going to be revered all over the world, all over the globe. And it's a number of that symbolizes the awakening. Okay, people are awakening to higher forces, higher principles. I get people consult them all the time. Dr. Craig, I'm seeing 1111. They're everywhere. They're everywhere. And I tell them the universe is trying to tell you something. Sit down, be still, and get a pencil ready. Okay, the 11 symbolizes the still voice within. And that's what people are responding to. Many of them, they're not aware that they are, but that's what people are responding to when they see that number, 1111, because that starts a transformation. The 22 is the highest of all the number fours, and four is always the number of manifestation. So 1111 is a forecaster of what we visualize, what we believe, what we concentrate on, we manifest. And that's what 1111 means numerically.
That is great. Thank you so much for that explanation. I was very curious about that, and I know I'm not the only one who's curious. So, I saw also that a number of years ago that you wrote a book called "It Adds Up," and can you tell us a little bit about what that is? I saw it's still available on Amazon and on your website, I believe.
Yes, it is. It all adds up. That essentially was a result of my dissertation. When I got my PhD, you have to write the paper to get it. So I just decided, well, I wrote this paper, I might as well publish it.
Yeah.
And that's how it all came about. I wanted to be a healing book, a book that would appeal to many people and help them have a self-help book that they could use. The word it, IT, okay? I is the ninth letter of the alphabet, T is the 20th. 29, 2 plus 9 is 11. So I wanted to have that 11 energy in my book. The word all is a 7, which is faith and wisdom. And the words adds up are both number ones. So
Mm.
it's a 2, 7, 1, 1, which adds up to 10. So people who get my book, they're going to develop their self-guidance, their self-reliance. They're going to know why they're here, and they're not going to have to rely on what other people think about them or how other people are trying to guide them. They'll essentially become the living word.
I like that. You
Okay.
put a lot of thought into the title alone, just using numerology. That's beautiful.
Yes, I did. Once I discovered, as people are waking up to the importance of energy and vibration and how we are attracting things into our lives, and we have to take more responsibility, we can't play the blame game. We have to realize, well, there's a reason why I'm experiencing this, and take that responsibility, go within, analyze it, and make the adjustment. And as I like to say, if there are no enemies within, we will experience no enemies without.
Mhm.
It's just impossible. It's the natural law. So as we grow and purge ourselves, we experience more and more harmony and peace and beauty in our lives.
Everything you've been saying is so in alignment with my spiritual studies and understandings. And so it's really beautiful. And I thank you for that. So, Dr. Wright, is there, I saw on your website, you hold numerology classes online. How can people find these classes? What's your website, et cetera?
Yes. My website is my name, Craig E. Wright. .com. That's www.CraigEWright.com, where you'll find it's actually a series of 6 classes that I teach. Um, Folks take them individually. Some people register for all 6 of them, but I was led to entitle it The Awakening, because that's what numerology was for me. I awakened to there was much more to life than, you know, who has the best house, what school did you go to, are your shoes in style, you know, all these material goals, false goals and things we're chasing and pursuing, leading us to places we don't want to be.
Yeah.
So that's what the classes will do. It can provide you with an awakening and really put meaning and purpose in your life. I also do forecasts, and when forecasts prepare you for the season. For all things, there's a season, and for the forecast, all you need is someone's month and day.
Mm.
So, for example, if someone was born, I don't know, May the 26th, their month and day will add up to 31. And this year is the number 25. 2 plus 0 plus 23, add up to 25. You add that to the number 31, okay? This is what personalizes the year. Universally, it's a 7 year. 2 plus 5 is 7. So people are resting. We're going to see the economy slow down. I hope it doesn't crash totally. We're going to see the economy slow down. On the 7th day, God rested. So we're due for a slowdown. It's
Mm.
coming. Um,
Mm.
but when we add our month and day to it, 31 to the 25 adds up to 56, and 5 plus 6 is 11. So for you, 2023 is going to be a time of increased revelation, more light, more people listening to your show, more people seeking out what you have, and your business is going to expand this year, because it's a number 11 year for you, which, as we just got finished talking about, you have an opportunity now to use this energy and become a light on the path for others.
Mm.
What does this mean? You're going to be the one breaking up the roadblocks. You're going to be the one untying the knots that have prevented things from moving forward. You get to be the peacemaker this year and settle disagreements and bring in harmony and really get things going. And also, there's going to be a lot more people. I know you have a podcast, but you may start to become a guest. People may start to want to interview you about what you're doing and how you're changing people's lives. And one more thing, if you haven't already, it's time to write the book.
Yeah, I've got another book in mind. I actually just published one last year. So called True Spirituality.
I really felt so uncomfortable when that came out. It's like, but that's
I already wrote it, but there's more where that came from, right? So
awesome.
This is great.
Awesome.
I just had a great reading, and actually thank you for that, because it kind of gave me a sense of fulfillment and some peace and knowing I'm on the right path. And that's what talking to Dr. Craig Wright can do. This is wonderful stuff. Craig, it's been awesome having you on World Awakenings.
Thank you, Carl.
My mind and my heart are already expanded. So thank you, man.
Thank you very much. And I want to thank you for being unique, and thank you for bringing inspirational messages for the rest of us. You are, without a doubt, a very powerful agent for change.
Thank you.
This has been another episode of World Awakenings, the fast track to enlightenment with host Carl Gruber, a certified Law of Attraction life coach. We welcome you to tune in to each and every episode of World Awakenings as we open your mind, your heart, and your eyes to the fact that the world's population is now, more than ever, awakening to the truth of all things spiritual, metaphysical, and enlightening, and just how much they play an all-important role in our moment-to-moment daily life. Much love and light to you, my friend, and thank you for tuning into World Awakenings.